Back, everybody. We are doing a show devoted to 9th and 10th graders today. And in our final segment, we're going to be talking about planning for extracurricular activities. And I'm very excited to welcome my colleague, Jen Simons, who's a former admissions officer at a number of places: Tufts, Barnard, Connecticut College, Northeastern. She's worked at a lot of places and she has a lot of insight, and I'm excited to have her join us. Hi, Jen.
Hi, it's great to see you, Beth.
You too. And one of these days, perhaps we will see each other in person again. Who knows? So why don't we start the segment by talking about extracurricular activities, things students do outside of the classroom. Why is this important? What is the role that they play?
Okay, so forget for a second about college. I know that's hard, even in the 9th grade, for parents and students sometimes to forget about the admissions process, but you need extracurricular activities because you want to stay healthy and happy, and life isn't just about going to class and coming home and, hopefully, there's a little bit of watching TV or video games or whatever, but you need other things to help you develop as a person. And
Yes.
So that's what extracurriculars are all about. It's about finding out what you like to do. It's about trying new things and challenging yourself. And yes, you're going to need to be involved in other things to, ideally get into the college you want, but it's not really even about that. It's about making friends and discovering new interests and reinforcing old ones. So that should be the emphasis when you think about what you want to do when you enter high school.
Right. Keeping busy. Keeping busy means keeping out of trouble. So maybe not crazy busy, but just busy enough so that you're not maybe getting involved in things you shouldn't have. I think of this as sort of like another ulterior benefit to extracurricular activities. All right, so let's say you're in 8th grade, you're in 9th grade now, or just as an 8th grader thinking about 9th grade. How do you decide what you want to do?
That's a great question. So the 8th graders and 9th graders I've spoken to tend to fall into one of two camps. The first is the kid that wants to do everything,
Yes.
that wants to try everything, that wants to join teams and drama and music and art and the paper, just bananas, and is not going to be able to do everything. And then I have I don't know what I want to do. And then mom or dad or someone, says, well, you have to do something,
Yes.
And so there is obviously a happy medium between these two, polar opposites. And so essentially, my advice is for the person that wants to do everything, and for the person actually who doesn't want to do anything, actually it's the same advice. So think about what you would enjoy the most, obviously, and think about something that would come easily and naturally to you, and something that you would consider fun, that wouldn't be a chore to go to. Because obviously, there's some extracurricular activities, even if you love them, when you're doing, drama, memorizing your lines might not be the most fun part, but hanging out with your friends and being on the set, interacting after school might be fun. Same with sports. You're going to have the really difficult practices, but you're also going to have the really rewarding ones. But really, the first thing you should think about is, what would I love to do if nobody was forcing me to do it?
Right.
And forget about what colleges want, because the truth is, and I say this all the time, I almost say this every day on the phone, colleges have no expectations or desires when it comes to extracurricular activities.
Right.
There's no one saying you have to volunteer. There's no one saying you have to do athletics. Maybe your high school is saying you have to volunteer, but that's different.
Right.
What colleges want is for you to be involved. And I know, of course, I'm putting it back to colleges, but just deal with me for a second.
It is part of why we're doing this. I mean, we have to acknowledge that it is part of it.
It is part of it. So
yes.
but the nice thing is that there's no preference. If
Right.
you're an artist, do art. If you're an athlete, do athletics. If you want to volunteer, do volunteering. And this might change over the course of the 4 years that you're in high school, but ideally by picking something you really love and doesn't feel like a chore and that your friends are doing is going to make it easier for you to sustain that over the 4 years, and you can discover other things. Now, the flip side of that, and I don't know that anybody's going to take this advice, but if one person does, I promise it's going to make your life better, is that I want you to choose something that's outside of your comfort zone. So the
Yes.
opposite of what I've told you to do. You know how all your friends are going to be in drama or choir or art or bowling or I don't know, whatever. I want you to do the opposite. I want you to pick some club that has absolutely no appeal to you. I'm trying to think what that would have been for me, or maybe that bowling club or whatever, and with people you don't know. And I just want you to go to the first meeting. I want you to step outside your comfort zone. And this is actually the same advice that I have for students that are in college too. You're going to easily get along with people that share similar interests, but if you could just pick one thing, and you don't even have to continue with it, but just pick one thing that challenges you a little bit and just try it, that's all I ask.
Yeah, no, I love this advice. I wish that I could have gotten my own son to take it, but I was not successful. And one thing I do want to shout out to the parents out there, especially parents of kids who don't seem to want to do anything. The tendency can be to choose it for them. You
Yeah.
know, after you say you have to do something, and then finally they pick nothing. So finally you say, okay, you're going to do this. Um, I have never seen that be successful. And I will tell you, I've never met a better debater than my son. He could debate me on anything. And, you know, if I don't have my mind in it and fully, you know, invest in it, he will have me talked around in circles and agreeing to things that I never should have agreed to in the first place. But he refused early on to try out for debate. And while I really tried to make a case for it and pushed for it, he just wasn't interested. And so at the end of the day, I walked away from that idea. I think he really would have enjoyed it. We will never know because he wasn't willing to try it. But he is doing things that he does enjoy. And as a result, he's much more committed to those things. And I just, from a parent perspective, that's one thing I really, really encourage parents to do. Set the expectation that you must choose something to get involved in. I would say ideally 3 things. Maybe you do one thing each sports season. Doesn't have to be a sport, but you devote your time to at least one thing each of those. But you stop short of being the person who chooses for your child, because I just don't think that ends well. But that's me. What are your thoughts about, you know, one of the things we talk a lot about is committing to your extracurricular activities. What do you think do you have to decide everything in 9th grade? Is there any leeway there?
No, you don't have to decide everything in ninth grade. But so again, going back to colleges, I do think that when I talk to students about a strong extracurricular profile, you do want 2 things. You want some depth and some breadth. And so you certainly don't want, and I'm sure everybody listening to this knows that you don't want your student doing a couple of things every year, that just different things every year. I mean, you can have that. You
Mhm.
can add new things every year and be a little bit of a dilettante and try, as long as there's kind of a core of consistency within some of the activities that you're doing.
Right.
So if you run track and you also do student government all 4 years, that's great. Then you can do baking club for a couple of years. I often see actually students as they get more comfortable, and this is of course natural, in 11th grade trying new things, in 12th, even in senior year, because suddenly it feels liberating to be able to do, or maybe there's pressure on you to do all the things that you want to do before you graduate. So whatever it is, you need to have some consistency. So I don't want to minimize the importance of choice and choosing the right activities in 9th grade, because it's very nice to be able to continue those, and not only continue those, but deepen those
Right.
over the 4 years. And not everybody is going to be president of student government. That's not what I'm talking about. But remaining involved and taking on either additional leadership activities if that's your style, or some extracurricular activities don't even provide you with leadership activities. I mean, it's just an expertise, so you're becoming a stronger runner or a stronger violin player or whatever.
Hmm.
But I do think that what you start in ninth grade is important. So be cautious about what you start, and know that you can acquire new things. You can drop things if you don't enjoy them, but there should be some core activities that you're able to follow through with. And ideally, they could be activities, quite frankly, that you do your whole life. You're not playing professional tennis now, but you still play tennis on the weekends, or,
Right.
whatever. So that's another actually good way to think about this. What could translate into being my hobby when
Hmm.
I'm in college or later on?
Right. No, I think that's great advice. And I think one thing I encourage students who are in eighth grade and are thinking about this is we certainly see lots of students who have been really involved in things before they ever get to high school. So maybe you've been playing soccer since you were a third grader or even younger. I always encourage kind of some introspection. Is this something you want to keep playing for 4 more years, right?
Hmm.
Most kids will say, absolutely, I love this sport, I'm going to keep doing it. But maybe you're already burned out, and maybe rather than playing soccer, you were actually hoping to take up I don't know, field hockey. Just trying to think of what are two fall sports that you might do. And so you were actually thinking, I'm going to drop the soccer and I'm going to take field hockey. If you have an inkling you might want to do that when you're in eighth grade, then make the change and go into high school and commit to field hockey rather than keeping doing it, knowing in your heart that you're not really invested in it. And then after ninth grade, you decide, I really don't want to do this anymore. It's not the end of the world if that's how you approach it, but it is even better if you can recognize that this is maybe not something you're going to want to do for 4 more years before you commit to it in ninth grade.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, not everyone will be able to, but something to think about. One, I sometimes find that families are surprised when they learn that something like a job, a part-time job, is considered an extracurricular activity. What are your thoughts on jobs as things for students to do versus joining a club at school?
Oh, absolutely. But before I talk about that, what you said reminded me of something that I see, not frequently, but enough to mention it, is that I have a lot of students that were gymnasts, for example, who
Yes.
don't want to do gymnastics because that's kind of a popular middle school and elementary school activity, and they turn to diving, for
Hmm.
example. And so sometimes it's about letting us help you, or getting ideas about, okay, this is what I do, I can't necessarily continue this, but what can this then become in high school and beyond? So just sorry for that
No,
diversion, but
no, good point. Good point.
jobs, absolutely. I mean, the expectation and the requirements in most places is that you can't get a paid job before a certain age. I mean, it varies, right? But oh, there's no question about it, jobs are extracurricular activities. My mother, thank you mom, said to me, I think it was, junior year, I think it's time that you get a job now. And I got a job at the local, Baskin Robbins, and that was part of my extracurricular resume, no question about it. It doesn't have to be a fancy internship. It doesn't have to be something, that's related to, what you want to do as a career. A part-time job is legitimate. Doing things with your religious organization, not going to services per se. I mean, this is the difference. Going to services with your family is not an extracurricular activity,
Right.
but being involved in some capacity in the church, or, synagogue, or mosque, or whatever it is. And then, also, I say this, the best example I can use is the dog walking. So when, walking your family's dog is a chore. That's not really an extracurricular activity, but
Yes.
walking your neighbor's dog for pay is an extracurricular activity, and organizing all the kids on the block to be part of a dog walking organization is a fabulous extracurricular activity
Right.
if you're so motivated. So that's how you have to think about it. Chores are not extracurricular activities unless they really are integral to the functioning of your family. And there are certainly plenty of kids out there who take care of their siblings, and it goes beyond what I would think of as as a chore into my family really couldn't function if I didn't drive my siblings to, their extra school activities or whatever. So that's, again, that's something that we can help you with, but I don't want to minimize the role of helping with your family as an extracurricular. I think ideally, Beth, you have a balance of extracurricular activities that are connected to your school,
Mm-hmm.
that are connected to your community, and that are paid.
Yeah.
So, and that paid, again, I think it starts later, usually 11th or 12th grade, but that would be really lovely if you could have a nice balance of all those three.
Right, right. And again, I want to underscore what you said earlier, which is it's nice if you have a balance of those three. It might contribute to you being a better person or just more ready to face the world. The colleges don't require that you have a balance of the three.
Oh, no.
And I think that's a really important. But as you think about what you could be doing, I think that's a really nice way to think about it. Of those kind of three areas. And the reality is that extracurricular is not limited to school organizations. It encompasses a lot more than that. And I think that's a really great point. Any final thoughts as we come close to the end of the show on this issue of thinking about getting involved?
Yeah, I really want students, younger students in particular, to remember that this is fun. This should be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should be learning about yourself, and you could be learning about something else or strengthening yourself in other ways. But the idea that you get this time to be with your classmates and your friends and enjoy yourself, I really do think there's a lot of pressure in today's competitive environment, whatever colleges you're applying to think about this as the destination. But in fact, this is the joy of high school. Other than learning, of course, this is really what is going to be some of the things that I remember when I think about high school are my drama club, are my job at Baskin Robbins, things like that. That was the texture of my high school experience.
Right. I would agree. And so much as so you could think of it as fun, I think we would both encourage that. Jen, thanks so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Great to see you. Thank you, as always.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I want to thank Jen and all my guests this week. Next week, Sally is going to be here hosting. We're going to be doing a follow-up segment on computer science. We did one a couple of weeks ago, but this time we're going to be providing the college's perspective. We're also going to be talking about standardized testing advice for current juniors amidst all the challenges that are being brought up by COVID-19. And then also online versus on campus, thinking about funding your college education with those in mind. You can always send us your questions to gettingin.voiceamerica@gmail.com. And if you are interested, we blog about all of our podcasts. So visit our blog.getintocollege.com. And don't forget, we're here every Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific.